So, I did a little research, and it turns out that when you search dungeon on Steam, you get 8,634 results, at least at the time of this recording. In a sea of dungeons, it takes a lot to stand out. Enter DungeonDrafters, an adorable grid-based dungeon crawling RPG with roguelite elements from Manalith Studios. I'll admit that before I started reviewing indie games, I avoided anything with the tag deck building or card-based like the plague. I always thought I didn't care for card games until Inscription changed my life. Now I've realized I like card games, I'm just not good at them. What a relief! I don't want to beat around the proverbial bush any longer. Dungeon Drafters is a delight. The story is a tale as old as time, a world once in harmony, interrupted by forces of evil. The evil is then sealed away until it was disturbed many years later, bringing chaos and disorder, and TLDR, we need a hero. It's not that deep, and it doesn't have to be. The story is only a means to setting up the gameplay, which is the real meat and potatoes of this review anyway. While I am typically controller dependent, I found that keyboard and mouse worked best for this little title, and I had no issues with adapting here. Options allow you to change your resolution and refresh rate, control gameplay speed, or toggle high resolution text on or off. Once you have the settings to your liking, you'll begin your journey through Dungeon Drafters by selecting one of 6 adventurers, each with their own unique attributes that present in the form of your starting deck. After a brief cutscene, the game eases you into its mechanics with a built-in tutorial level, where you will navigate your character around a grid, square by square and room by room. During combat, you have 3 action points at your disposal. With these points, you can either move a single square in any direction, or use one of the cards in your deck. There are no potions, no special attacks to perform, and no separate spells to cast in Dungeon Defenders, because the cards are your magic. It's as simple as that, and honestly it streamlines gameplay a great deal. Combat is turn-based, so after you've used up all of your action points, any allies you summon will have a turn, followed by the enemies. Foes all have a different range of attack, so you'll need to pay attention to where you're standing when your turn ends to avoid being in their line of fire. Each dungeon is broken up into rooms and floors, with the difficulty increasing the further you venture into the ruins. Before diving deeper into the dungeon, you'll be given the option to return to the hub world with your spoils, usually shards and cards, or venture deeper, spitting in the face of certain death. If you venture too close to the sun and run out of health, you'll be forcefully returned to the hub world, forfeiting all of your loot, including any cards you may have discovered. Exploring the town before or after death is recommended, as you can purchase items, customize your deck, open your booster packs, and speak with NPCs to take on side quests in the form of challenges for you to complete during your dungeon crawling, with a reward for completion, of course. One traveling adventurer you'll meet can procure you curios to boost your stats. Another shop owner sells specialty runes. There's much to discover and customize, so it's worth your time to wander and interact a bit. Also, there's fishing. Not something I expected, but a perfectly pleasant surprise, and helpful in accruing some additional cash for the aforementioned wares. Collecting and utilizing cards is important and will require some degree of strategy, but the gameplay loop is so simple and addicting, you won't even notice you're using your brain half the time. I blinked and several hours of my life were gone, and I wasn't even mad about it. One thing I really appreciated is that there is no one correct way to play Dungeon Drafters. Depending on your strengths and preferences as a player, you can build the perfect deck for you. Do you prefer attacking from a distance? Perhaps you're the type to manipulate your environment for a more defensive approach. Maybe you find comfort in chaos and need a little bit of everything to succeed. Anything is possible here. Each dungeon will provide you different types of cards, and you'll be able to pick and choose what works for your playstyle. Combining different cards together in a single turn can create deadly combos to ward off even the most threatening foes. Don't get me wrong, there is a fair amount of challenge here, and losing the last hit point after a deep descent into the dungeon can be devastating, but I never found it frustrating. Since you have the ability to enter any of the 6 areas at any time, you can always take a break from a dungeon that is giving you grief to explore others and perhaps pick up some more powerful cards along the way. It's a winning formula. I read the comments. I know some of you are sick of the pixel art style, but let's be real, this game was begging for it. The graphics are so simple, yet super effective. The UI is neat and unobtrusive. It's not overcomplicated with too many systems or menus. Despite the pixel effect, text was still easy to read and interpret, even during the heat of battle. Each dungeon and environment has a unique theme with corresponding cards, color scheme, and crawling with thematically appropriate baddies. The player characters are diverse in appearance, though one thing I was missing is a bit of personality and lore. The opening cutscene on the stormy seas is exactly the same for every character. I know that story and plot development are not the focus of Dungeon Drafters, but I would have loved to see a little bit of animated backstory for each character or faction, as right now they all feel like empty husks with magical card-based abilities. I know it's a minor complaint, but something that could connect the player to their character and take the immersion and experience to the next level. Much like the Beatles you can summon in Dungeon Drafters, music is bomb. Get it? Because the Beatles explode. I'll stop. But in all seriousness, every track you hear is better than the next. They're catchy without being invasive or grating, even after hours of gameplay. I absolutely adore this soundtrack. It's oozing with charm and solidifies this game as something that will remain in my library as something I'll be playing for a long time to come. Dungeon Drafters is a game that will challenge you, but offer you reasons to keep coming back for more. If you don't like the hand that other card-based titles have dealt you in the past, try this one on for size. You might not remember the world or the personality of its characters, but you'll remember the gameplay loop, the treasures, and the experience fondly. A winning hand, if you ask me.
Thank you so much for supporting clickbait-free independent content here on YouTube. Remember to hit the like button and subscribe to help us bring a voice to the voiceless ones in gaming, and be sure to check out patreon.com/idreamofindiegames, where we can together defeat the gaming echo chamber.